Hi, I'm Larry Powell, and welcome to Earthwatch, presented every week or so on Nipawin Access Television, a summary of events from around the world. The White House has now joined the growing chorus of alarm over the consequences of man-made climate change in the U.S. In this report, more than 100 top government experts tell President Obama there will very likely be an increase of thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of people dying in heat waves by the end of the century. While things like air conditioning and warmer winters will save some lives, it won't be enough to counter that net rise in deaths. There will also be more superstorms like Sandy, which caused damage like this: higher sea levels and more storm surges. Wildfires are not only on the increase, especially in the southwest, they're starting earlier and lasting longer. Those hit by extreme weather events will even experience more mental health problems like PTSD and depression. Two Canadian women campaigning for justice for Palestinians in the Middle East brought their message here recently to the Nipawin United Church. Kathy Bergen and Jan McIntyre painted a bleak picture of life for Palestinians in places like Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. These territories have all been tightly controlled by Israel since it was created 68 years ago. Israel has confiscated vast amounts of land for more than 500,000 Jews in growing settlements like this in the West Bank. Bergen, who describes herself as a Christian pacifist, calls Israel's actions illegal under international law. She was in Gaza for each of the 3 wars Israel has waged against the tiny territory since '08. She acknowledges Palestinians have launched rockets against Israel from the Gaza side, but she says most people living there just want to be left alone so they can get on with their lives in peace.
I would say that Gaza was probably bombed into the Stone Age. I don't ever imagine how they can recover. Ever. It's just so bleak. It's just like Gaza is literally a hellhole.
Israel is building this barrier, said to be twice as high as the Berlin Wall, all around the West Bank. It follows a route that sometimes varies wildly from the actual border, apparently to allow Israel to keep control of vital water supplies in the Palestinian territory. Jan McIntyre says she was visiting her friend Iman, a young Palestinian woman, in her home in a village in the West Bank, where it is often very hot. Iman told her the Israelis had cut off the main water supply she relied upon for herself, her family, and their livestock.
And then she looked at me, just looked me straight in the eye, and she said, "Jan, we all come from the same God. Jewish people, Muslim people, Christian people. Why is it that some get water and some do not?" I didn't have an answer. I didn't know what to say.
The Israelis later bulldozed Iman's home, forcing her into another. In another incident, McIntyre says the orchard seen in the foreground here, in the same Palestinian family for centuries, was also bulldozed by the Israelis. About 4 years ago, the United Church of Canada joined other voices in the international community in calling for an end to Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territories, an end to Jewish settlements there, and a boycott of goods produced in those illegal settlements. 2 months ago, the Canadian House of Commons approved a Conservative motion to condemn people like Bergen and McIntyre for supporting such action, calling them anti-Semitic. The Conservative member for this area, Robert Sopak, Dauphin Swan River Nipawin, spoke strongly in favor of the motion to condemn. Scientists with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in the U.S. say baby bottlenose dolphins are dying in record numbers in their mother's wombs or shortly after birth in the northern Gulf of Mexico. The experts have detected higher rates of illness among fetuses and newborns since the Deepwater Horizon explosion and oil spill which occurred there in 2010. It was the largest oil spill at sea ever. The scientists blame the deaths on chronic illnesses like brucellosis suffered by the mother dolphins who were exposed to the oil. The long-term effects of the spill on dolphin reproduction are still unknown. Moving from one ocean tale to another, and a happier one it is, especially for residents of the tiny hamlet of Clyde River in Nunavut. The Supreme Court of Canada has agreed to hear the community's challenge to plans by oil companies to conduct seismic tests for oil offshore. They would use loud airgun blasts known to permanently damage the hearing of narwhals and bowhead whales. Up to 90% of the world's narwhals are said to live offshore. The local Inuit depend on them for food. Well, that's all for this edition of Earthwatch. For more stories like this, check out my blog at planetinperil.ca. And I'll be back again in a week or so with another edition on NAC TV. Bye for now. Have a green day.